What if the most magical love story of the 90s wasn't over? Imagine the streets of Beverly Hills glowing under the golden California sun, the sound of high heels clicking against the sidewalk, and the faint echo of that unforgettable theme song playing in the background. Then, out of a sleek black town car steps a face we thought we'd never see in this story again, Vivian Ward. She's older now, wiser, but still has that spark in her eyes. And just a few steps away, watching with a knowing smile, stands Edward Lewis. The air between them carries decades of history, a love that was once improbable but unforgettable. Now, after 36 years, the two are back, but this time, their journey is about more than just romance. It's about redemption, second chances, and the kind of love that survives the years. In Pretty Woman 2, the city hasn't changed much, but the world has. Vivian has transformed from a woman trying to find her place into a confident, successful entrepreneur. She runs a foundation that helps women break free from the same struggles she once faced. Her days are filled with board meetings, charity events, and mentoring young women who remind her of her younger self.
Wow.
But success has a price. In Vivian's latest project, a high-profile hotel aimed at empowering female business owners has caught the attention of powerful rivals. Just when it seems like she's cornered, fate intervenes. Edward, now a semi-retired businessman, re-enters her life. He's been living a quieter existence away from the cutthroat corporate world until a new threat draws him back in, and straight into Vivian's orbit. Their reunion isn't just emotional, it's electric. And while both have lived entire lives since their fairy tale beginning, they soon realize that some stories refuse to fade. Asterisk, the original Pretty Woman wasn't just another romantic comedy, it was lightning in a bottle. Back in 1990, audiences were swept away by the unlikely pairing of a guarded corporate tycoon and a free-spirited woman with a heart bigger than the city they roamed. It was the story of Vivian Ward, who went from navigating the shadows of loss, Angela's nightlife, to walking through the lobby of the Regent Beverly Wilshire, like she owned the place. And then there was Edward Lewis, a man who knew how to buy entire companies, but had no idea how to let someone into his heart. Together, they gave us moments that became more than just movie scenes. They became cultural landmarks. Jewelry box snap. Iconic. The bathtub sing-along. Unforgettable. The rooftop rescue in the white limo. Symbol of happily ever afters everywhere. But the magic wasn't only in the romance. It was in the transformation, Vivian discovering her own worth and Edward learning there's more to life than money and power. It was about taking chances, breaking stereotypes, and rewriting the ending society expected. Over the years, the film has been quoted, referenced, and paid homage to in countless ways, proving it's not just a love story, it's a part of cinematic history. And now, more than 3 decades later, the thought of returning to that world feels like stepping into a memory we all wish we could relive. The streets of Rodeo Drive, the shimmering hotel lobby, the way their eyes met in quiet moments, all of it is etched in the hearts of fans. The sequel's concept isn't just about continuing a story. It's about revisiting a feeling, rekindling a kind of movie magic that Hollywood rarely captures twice. This time the stakes are higher, the characters older and wiser, but the question remains, can lightning strike twice? Asterisk, picture this. It's been decades since that fairy tale limo ride, but life has a way of testing even the strongest bonds. In our Pretty Woman concept, Vivian Ward is no longer the woman who needed saving. She's now the one doing the saving. Over the years, she's built a women's empowerment empire, a chain of boutique hotels that not only cater to luxury travelers but also provide jobs, training, and housing for women starting over. She's respected, influential, and finally in control of her own narrative. But her newest project, a flagship Beverly Hills hotel on the very street where her life changed forever, has made her a target. A ruthless corporate group wants her prime property. They'll stop at nothing to take it from her. Enter Edward Lewis. He's now living a semi-retired life in New York, far from the corporate wars that once defined him. He's spent the past decade investing in meaningful causes, quietly supporting charities, and avoiding the cutthroat world he once thrived in. But when he learns that Vivian is facing the same kind of soulless takeover he used to orchestrate, something inside him stirs. The man who once saw the world in terms of profit and loss now sees an opportunity for redemption and for reconnection. Their reunion isn't smooth. It's filled with guarded glances, awkward pauses, and the undeniable pull of old feelings. Edward offers his strategic mind, while Vivian brings her fearless heart. Together, they form a plan, not just to protect her business, but to remind each other who they were when they first fell in love. Yet, the Beverly Hills they knew has changed. The streets are busier, the stakes are higher, and their enemies are more cunning. Along the way, they cross paths with a new generation, Vivian's spirited niece, who dreams of making it big in fashion, and a young corporate shark who could be the Edward of tomorrow if only he learns the lessons Edward did. Through every twist, the question lingers. Is this fight just about saving a hotel, or is it about reigniting the love that started it all? Asterisk. There's a reason Julia Roberts and Richard Gere's names still make movie fans light up their on-screen. Magic in Pretty Woman wasn't just acting, it was pure chemistry. You could feel it in the smallest gestures, the way Edward's smile softened whenever Vivian spoke, the way Vivian's laughter seemed to catch him off guard. Now imagine that spark 3 decades later, layered with the weight of everything they've been through. This wouldn't be just a nostalgic cameo. It would be a reunion steeped in history, growth, and unspoken feelings. Julia Roberts could bring a richer, more grounded Vivian, still witty and radiant, but with the wisdom of someone who's fought her way to the top. Richard Gere could give us an Edward who's learned to balance ambition with heart, a man who has traded boardroom conquests for something far more meaningful. Seeing them share the screen again would be more than a callback. It would be a full-circle moment. In our imagined trailer, their reunion is subtle yet powerful. Edward spots Vivian at a charity gala. She's in a deep red evening gown, a deliberate echo of the one that once turned heads on their first date. He approaches, slowly, unsure if he's intruding on her new life. She turns, and for a second, the world around them fades. The same knowing smile they shared in 1990 returns. But now it's touched with the kind of warmth that only comes from years apart, and the realization that some connections never weakened out off-screen. Roberts and Gere have spoken in interviews about their fondness for each other, their easy rapport, and how they've always trusted one another as scene partners. Bringing that real-life comfort back into a sequel would make every look, every pause, every bit of dialogue feel authentic. It wouldn't just be 2 actors reuniting, it would be 2 characters we've carried in our hearts, stepping back into our lives. And for fans, that's the kind of moment that doesn't just entertain. It leaves you smiling long after the credits roll. Asterisk. Every great sequel needs more than nostalgia. It needs fresh energy to breathe new life into a familiar world. In our Pretty Woman 2 concept, that spark comes from a new generation of characters, who aren't just side notes, but key players in the story's evolution. First is Lily Ward, Vivian's 25-year-old niece, a determined young woman from a small town who's just arrived in Los Angeles with nothing but a suitcase, a sketchbook, and a dream of becoming a high-end fashion designer. Lily's charm mirrors Vivian's younger self, but her ambition is sharper, shaped by a world that moves faster and plays rougher than the Beverly Hills of the early 90s. Her storyline lets us see the city and the movie's themes through fresh eyes as she learns that not every opportunity is as glamorous as it looks. Then there's Nathan Cole, 30-something corporate strategist, working for the very conglomerate, trying to take over Vivian's hotel. He's brilliant, confident, and dangerously close to becoming the kind of man Edward once was. Nathan's initial encounters with Vivian are filled with tension and sparring, but his dynamic with Lily is even more electric. She challenges his views, he questions her optimism. And their unlikely connection adds a playful, yet dramatic subplot that mirrors the central romance in a younger, or modern way. We also meet Eleanor Bishop, a wealthy, impeccably dressed socialite who owns a rival hotel chain. Eleanor isn't a cartoon villain. She's poised, persuasive, and calculated. She sees Vivian, is both a competitor and a threat to her influence in Beverly Hills. Eleanor's quiet but constant interference forces Vivian and Edward to up their game, pushing them into late-night strategy sessions that spark both conflict and connection. By weaving these new characters into the fabric of the story, the sequel avoids being just a trip down memory lane. Instead, it becomes a multi-generational tale about ambition, loyalty, and the price of love in a world that's always moving forward. It's not just Vivian and Edward's fight, it's a fight that could define the legacy they leave behind. The emotional pull of Pretty Woman 2 would come from blending nostalgia with fresh, gut-punch moments that hit the heart as the first film's most iconic scenes. In our imagined trailer, the opening shot after the title card is pure. Dacia vu Vivian and Edward walking into the grand lobby of the Regent Beverly Wilshire. The camera pans up slowly, just like in 1990, but now their steps are slower, their gaze is heavier. As if the walls themselves remember their history. The music swells with a modern reimagining of Roy Orbison's "Oh, Pretty Woman," softer, slower, almost bittersweet. Midway through the trailer, we get the first real emotional jolt. Vivian standing in front of her niece Lily, handing her a small velvet box. Lily opens it to find a sparkling necklace, and in that instant, Vivian snaps the box closed, laughing, a perfect mirror of Edward's playful gesture from the original film. It's a small nod, but it makes long time. Fans smile while showing how Vivian has taken ownership of her own legend. Another standout moment comes in a dimly lit rooftop scene. Edward and Vivian are looking out over Beverly Hills at night. He tells her, "I thought we got our happily ever after." She replies, "We did. We just didn't know the story wasn't finished." Their hands brush, and the city lights reflect. In their eyes, a quiet, intimate beat that says more than words ever could. We also see flashes of the new conflicts. Eleanor Bishop sipping champagne at a rival hotel launch. Nathan Cole watching Lily walk away after a heated argument. And Vivian standing alone in the empty lobby of her unfinished hotel. The editing picks up pace, quick shots of strategy meetings, romantic glances, tense confrontations, until it slows again for one final, breath-stealing moment. Vivian steps out of a car in a flowing red gown, and Edward, waiting at the door, simply says, "You're late." She smirks. "Oh, you're worth it." Fade to black. This imagined trailer wouldn't just promote a sequel, it would remind audiences why they fell in love with these characters in the first place, while hinting at the deeper, more layered story waiting to be told. Asterisk, the trailer's final moments are where everything comes together. The nostalgia, the romance, the tension, and the promise of something new. The screen fades from black to a slow-motion shot of Vivian and Edward walking side by side down Rodeo Drive. This time, there's no awkwardness, no uncertainty. They move with the quiet confidence of two people who have faced the world, lost each other, and somehow found their way back. The city around them hums with energy, yet it feels like they're the only two in the frame. Just as the music builds, we cut to flashes of the stakes ahead. Vivian standing defiantly at a boardroom table, Edward shaking hands with an unexpected ally, Lily sketching a design under a single lamp late at night. Nathan watching from the shadows, and Eleanor's perfectly painted smile hiding her next move. Each shot feels like a clue, daring the audience to guess where the story will go. Then, in a soft, almost whispered voiceover, Vivian says, "Some stories don't end. They wait for the right time to begin again." She speaks, Edward reaches for her hand. The camera stays on their fingers as they intertwine. The background blurring until all that remains in focus is the connection that started it all. The title card appears, Pretty Woman to 2026, in bold gold lettering, followed by the subtitle, Love Gets a Second Chance. A final beat of silence, then the sound of footsteps on pavement, and Roy Orbison's voice kicking in with, "Oh, Pretty Woman." Before cutting to black, the last frame simply reads, "Coming soon, and for fans, that's enough to spark a rush of memories, excitement, and endless theories." They're not just watching a sequel trailer, they're witnessing the return of a love story that defined a generation, now ready to capture a new one.